This is Inside the Americas. Thank you for joining us for this special edition focusing on the U.S. presidential campaign. Is Donald Trump the shoo-in Republican nominee? Is Nikki Haley's campaign DOA? And what's Joe Biden been doing to make sure he keeps his job? We'll be picking all that apart with Kethevane Gorjestani in just a minute. I'm Jeannie Godula. Former U.S. President Donald Trump steamrolled to victory in New Hampshire this week, cementing his position as the shoo-in Republican nominee. With almost all the votes counted, Trump was ahead of only standing rival behind him, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, by about 11 percentage points. Haley, though, still vowing to fight on and hedging her bets on the primaries coming up in Nevada and in her home state of South Carolina. Jean-Emile Jamin takes a look.
Donald Trump's grip on securing the Republican Party's presidential nomination has tightened. On Tuesday evening, the former president beat his only remaining rival, Nikki Haley, in New Hampshire's primary. A comfortable victory despite the state's reputation for moderate and independent voters.
This is an evening that I will not forget. When you win Iowa and you win New Hampshire, they've never had a loss. There's never been. So we're not going to be the first, I can tell you. And I just do want to reiterate the polls. We're way up on everybody. We're way up on Biden.
This is Donald Trump's second victory in the campaign after winning the Iowa caucus last week. All other Republican Party candidates have withdrawn from the race, with most of them now endorsing Trump. Except for Nikki Haley, the former UN ambassador, who is still confident she can defy the odds.
Now, you've all heard the chatter among the political class. They're falling all over themselves, saying this race is over. Well, I have news for all of them. New Hampshire is first in the nation. It is not the last in the nation. This race is far from over. There are dozens of states left to go.
The campaign will continue in Nevada and South Carolina in February. Haley, however, won't compete in Nevada, saying the rules there are too much in Trump's favor. The former governor of South Carolina is instead pinning her hopes on a home state win. But even there, Trump is already well ahead in the polls. So much so that Joe Biden's campaign team is gearing up for a rematch in the race for the presidency, believing Trump is assured of the Republican nomination.
We're going to talk more about all of this with someone who has a lot of experience on the U.S. campaign trail, Kethevane Gorjestani. Hi, Kethevane. Thanks for being with us on Inside the Americas. Let's start with Nikki Haley. What do you think? Does she have any chance at all at this point?
New Hampshire was pretty much make or break for Nikki Haley because the voters there were the ones that were going to make her win or not. It didn't work out. It doesn't look like she has any chance of winning the nomination. Bar maybe a political earthquake. That said, why is she still staying is that she has a strategy. First of all, there's the symbolical aspect of going through to South Carolina, her home state, where she was a governor, where she was popular. Second of all, she can stay for now because she has the money and the donors. So far, she does have it, so it gives her a little bit more time. If she doesn't do well in South Carolina, that might change, but at least for now, she can stay in the race. And then there's the strategy, not necessarily to win the nomination, but to stay long enough in this race against Donald Trump to be seen as a viable alternative. If something were to happen to Donald Trump, of course, who is not a very young candidate, but also he has all those legal troubles. So she's really staying in this race to be sort of the plan B if something were to unravel in Trump's campaign.
So what do you think about the Trump campaign so far? Talk us through his strengths and his weaknesses.
Well, New Hampshire really showed both his strengths and his weaknesses. New Hampshire confirmed that he has an overwhelming domination and control over the GOP base. That hasn't changed. That is not likely going to change going forward to November. But it also showed some of the weaknesses because the electorate in New Hampshire, it's more moderate among the Republican. It has more independents. And so these are the sort of voters that could tip the balance, tip the scale between Donald Trump and Joe Biden in the general election come November. And he's not doing great with those moderate Republicans. He's not doing great with the independents. He's not doing well with urban voters. He's not doing as well with suburban voters, and he's not doing as well with minorities. All of those voters are key constituencies when it comes to the general election, and especially the general election in key swing states. And so that could be where it sort of makes or breaks Donald Trump. The question is, will he be able to convince voters beyond that Republican base that will follow him wherever he goes?
All right. It was not the best night for Nikki Haley, as we were saying, there in New Hampshire this week. But actually, it was a great night for Joe Biden. The current president easily won an unofficial Democratic primary in New Hampshire, giving him a symbolic boost at least. Biden marked that day by campaigning alongside Vice President Kamala Harris in Virginia at a rally for abortion rights. That focus on the issues, one of Biden's key strategies in his campaign. James Mulholland takes a look.
Hoping to harness the enduring outrage over the repeal of abortion rights. On what would have been the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade, Joe Biden launched a scathing attack on his Republican presidential rival.
Donald Trump is betting you won't vote on this issue. He's betting we won't hold him responsible either. I'm betting he's wrong. It was Donald Trump and his Supreme Court who ripped away the rights and freedoms of women in America. And it'll be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all of you who are going to restore those rights for the women of America.
In June 2022, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned the landmark reproductive rights legislation with the help of 3 conservative justices appointed by Trump. Biden pledged to use his presidential powers to overrule a national abortion ban, which Republicans are trying to pass in Congress.
In the past year, Trump himself endorsed a federal ban promising to lead the charge. God love him. I will veto it.
The president's speech was interrupted several times by pro-Palestinian supporters calling for an end to U.S. support of Israel's war in Gaza.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire!
That could prove a challenge for Biden, particularly among progressive and young Democratic voters who were key to his 2020 election victory.
Kethevane, what's the thinking in the Biden campaign at the moment? Are they happy about a possible Trump-Biden rematch?
It seems that this is sort of the best case scenario in a difficult re-election campaign. But having Donald Trump as an opponent sort of alleviates some of the perceived weaknesses of the Biden candidacy. First of all, there's the age. Compared to Donald Trump, there's only a few years between them, so it's not like he's running against a fresh new face. And talking about new faces, Donald Trump is not a new face. He was in office for 4 years, which means you can attack what he did for 4 years, which is something that Donald Trump has been doing with Joe Biden. And then having Donald Trump also plays up the strengths of Joe Biden. It plays up his strengths when it comes to unifying the country, stability. He's seen as a much more calming figure in U.S. Politics. It also plays up his key messages. We heard about abortion. What better way to promote the message about abortion than face the man who, quote unquote, killed Roe versus Wade. And then the other big message by Joe Biden is the message about the battle for the soul of the nation, the battle for democracy. What better opponent than the man who is seen as responsible for that attack on Congress on January 6th? And the ultimate idea for the Biden campaign is that maybe that once you have the choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, the fear of seeing Donald Trump return will sort of outweigh the criticisms and the lack of enthusiasm for the Joe Biden candidacy.
All right, we'll find all of that out on Election Day in November, still 9 months away. What are the wild cards that could throw this whole thing off at this point?
Well, the first one is obvious, Biden's age. He is an older man, and there could be something happening with his health. There has been a lot of talk about the fact that he's aging, and so that is something that we simply cannot predict. There's also that lack of enthusiasm that I was talking about when it comes to the youth vote, when it comes to the progressive vote, when it comes to the minority vote. And then there are the topics that are the focus of the Republicans. The economy. That's been something that was seen as a weakness for Joe Biden because people are seeing the economy in a bad light. That looks like it's starting to change a little bit. So that could actually turn in favor of Joe Biden. Then there's the question of immigration. There's this battle in Congress for a border deal. If he manages to strike a deal with the Republicans, that could help him with the independents, with the moderate Republicans. It could also anger those progressives. And then you have, of course, foreign policy. We saw the protesters heckling him about his policy towards Gaza. That could play against him when it comes to those progressives, those young voters. But again, they believe, the Biden campaign, that when it comes to the Middle Eastern policy, once those young voters, those progressive voters have the choice between Joe Biden and the man that they're really showing as the man who implemented the Muslim ban, they'll figure out that maybe Joe Biden is not exactly what they want, but it is better than Donald Trump.
All right, Kethevane, thank you so much for that analysis. We're going to be talking a lot more about the U.S. presidential campaign with you and with all of our experts here at France 24 in the coming weeks and the coming months. Thanks again to you. Thanks again to you for watching. We'll see you soon for the next Inside the Americas.
Off the coast of Norway lies a source of great envy, rare deep-sea minerals.
Synthetic biology, 6G, artificial intelligence have that in common, that they are enabled by minerals.
But the exploitation of this underwater El Dorado could pose an environmental threat.
Here you can see the dust from the operation spreading into the water.
Any impact would be long-lasting.
A crucial choice for the future.
The need for minerals going forward in the energy transition that we're going through is so great, so saying no also has consequences.
Watch Norway, the race for deep-sea mining, in Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.